All right. We're back at work again. Okay, video 3 for week 8. We're going to be looking at simple and compound interest. If you go to your cheat sheet, got it right here in the middle. Okay, simple interest. I is equal to PRT. Compound interest is A is equal to P times the quantity, 1 plus R, raised to the T power. Okay, this year, okay, whoa, that's a little big. How about let's do something? Okay, T power. So this year in 7th grade, you're only going to see that T is going to be a 2. In 8th grade, when you get a calculator, that T will be much larger. You'll see 3, 4, 10, 20, whatever the case is. Okay, and so these are the two types of interest that will be calculating for, simple or compound. If you have questions on those, you can ask your folks, or you can come ask me next year, and I'll be glad to explain some of the differences. But for now, being able to solve these problems. Okay, now remember, you've got them not here only on your cheat sheet, but you do have them on your star reference sheet at the very, very bottom. Okay, and so if you're what you will do next year is you will also have them on your star reference sheet for 8th grade as well. They will be on your 8th grade star reference sheet as well. Okay, so let's take a look at some simple and compound interest problems. All right, so number 1, Chloe has $1,500 in a savings account that pays 2.5% simple interest. How much will she have in her account after 2 years? Read the full question. How much will she have in her account after 2 years? Okay, how much will she have? So, first of all, let's go back and look at our some of our keywords here that we're looking at. Simple interest. Very important, simple or compound. When you're looking at these problems, that's the key word you're looking for. Is simple or compound. It tells you which formula. So we know from our star reference sheet or our cheat sheet for our this unit cheat sheet, we know that the simple interest formula is okay. I is equal to PRT. Okay, I is equal to PRT. Now, what I taught you before was what in the world is the value for each of those? So what is P, what is R, what is T? Okay, P means the principal. Okay, P is the principal. Nope, not Mr. Gibson, but the principal as in the initial amount or starting amount of your account, whether that's how much you have when you start this or maybe how much you put in at one time. Okay, so our principal, okay, is going to be $1,500. $1,500. Okay, now R will be rate. Okay, R is the rate or interest rate is what that is. That's where the R is. So the interest rate is 2.5%. Okay, remember when we're running any calculations, we've got to make sure that you change that percentage to a decimal. Wait a minute, Mr. Gerald, it's got a decimal, so I'm good. No, it's not. You've got to change that to a decimal. Okay, so that means it's not 0.25. So 0.025. You got to move that decimal to the left. Okay, to the left, 2 spots. So 0.025. T. Our T would be our time in years. It's very specific to be years. I know that you've all watched television and you've all seen when they talk about financing, and they say, all right, you can get a brand new Cadillac or a Dodge Charger or a Kia Soul or whatever we're getting. You can get a brand new vehicle for 1.9% for 60 months. Well, what is 60 months? You've got to translate that months over into years. Okay, 60 months is 5 years for that case, paying for a vehicle. But in this case, we're already given the 2 years. So T is equal to 2. Now, at this point, you've got to substitute those values. Okay, that's what you're doing. All right, and so let's substitute the values. So the amount of interest. This formula shows us the amount of interest that this person will have after the time period. Just interest. So 1,500. Okay, and then we're going to multiply 1,500 times what? What is R? R is 0.025. Okay. Then you're going to multiply it by the time, which is T. Okay, 0.025, and then you'll multiply it by the 2, which is T. Now, you're going to have to do this. It's a little bit more difficult because you've got to do this without a calculator. Okay, I'm lucky because, well, not lucky. I planned it this way. I've got a calculator, so I calculated all that out. Okay, and so I calculated it out, and I found out that I is 75. So the interest. This is very important. The interest is only how much interest that this person's earned. So that is $75. Okay, now let me ask this. What did the question ask you? The question said, how much will she have in her account? They want to know the total amount. Okay, so the total, okay, is going to be principal plus interest, because she started with 1,500, and then over the 2 years, Chloe earned $75 in interest. So that would mean that the total is 1,575. Okay, be very careful what the question is asking. This question said, how much will she have in her account? Another question could have said, how much interest was earned after 2 years? So you've got to be able to differentiate, to be able to tell the difference between those two questions. Okay, that's why it's important. Okay, that's why it's very important, okay, to read the full question. Okay, read the full question. All right, so let's take a look. Now, Chloe had her money in a simple interest savings account, but she's got a friend who said, "Well, I can do better than that." So Naomi, Naomi has $1,500 in a savings account that pays 2.5% compound interest. How much will she have in her account after 2 years? So if you will notice, the only thing different other than the name is that this is a compound interest problem. So if you look at your star reference sheet or your cheat sheet, the compound formula, A is equal to P times this quantity. Quantity is when you put something in those parentheses, 1 plus R raised to the T power. Okay, I know this looks confusing, it looks scary, but I promise you, if you plug in the values, that it will not be as scary. Just plug in the values and then let's simplify, and it will not be as scary. Okay, let's start back over, and we're going to see P, R, and T. Okay, these values are the same as the previous problem, but still, the P, and it tells you on your cheat sheet that P is a principal, which is the amount you started with. That's $1,500. R is the interest rate. Okay, that's 2.5%. You remember, you cannot leave it as a percent. You must change it to a decimal. Even though there's a decimal in it, you must change it to the decimal form. So 0.025. T, that time is in years, that's 2. Now, all of these values now need to go into this equation. Okay, so what is A? A tells us in our cheat sheet that is the future value. So not only are we using a different formula, but the what you're solving for is a little different. The previous problem, I solved for just the interest in a simple interest problem. A compound interest problem, when you solve for A, that's the future value, which means this already includes the interest. Okay, so it looks more confusing, but it's a tiny bit easier because it gives you the total amount after you run this calculation. Okay, so 1,500 times 1 plus 0.025. That little T, remember that T is not just like out here on the side, that 2, it's up here in the exponent place. And we've talked about this. I know it's been a while since we talked about it. It's been last fall. Okay, so now we're going to simplify. 1,500 times 1 plus 0.025 is 1.025 when you add those together, and you still have to square it. Now, what is squaring? Squaring means you're multiplying that number by itself. So 1.025 times 1.025. That's what it means when you end up squaring a value. Okay, so when you square that value 1.025, okay, you get 1.050625. Mr. Gerald, this is crazy. Yes, you're absolutely right. Most of these problems should not give you anything that is that difficult. I'm doing this one because if you can do this a little bit more difficult, you're able to do the ones that are a little bit more difficult in your problems for the week. Okay, so now you're going to take this value, you're going to put it in here. I got all that in the way. You're going to put that value in here. So you're going to say 1,500 times that value, 1.050625, and then you're going to multiply that times 1,500. And what that's going to give you, that A is going to give you 1,575.94. Okay, that's 94 cents extra. Look at that. $1,575.94. How is that different than our simple interest? Well, Chloe earned her total after 2 years was $1,575. Okay, Naomi's got 94 cents more. Well, that's not much. You're right, it's not much, but it is more. Okay, it is more, and that's the point. So it's difficult to see with these smaller values. And yes, I did mean to give you some crazy values like this because I wanted you to work these problems and be able to see how important it is to get your multiplication down. But also next year when you have a calculator, it'll be so much easier. Okay, that's our interest problems. All right, those are our interest problems. That's our video 3. I've got 2 more problems, and 2 more videos will be done for the week. Okay, y'all have a great week.